If you bet on margin markets in the NRL, you're going to love this video because I'm going to show you a lot of really awesome stuff to help you maximize the profits you make from betting. Because every single bet that I'm putting on, I'm wanting to maximize the return I'm going to get from that bet. I don't care if it's $20, $50, $100 extra from each bet. It's worthwhile doing that to me. So hopefully it is for you guys. And specifically when it comes to margin markets. So right here, we're looking at 2023, every team's margin they won their games by, whether it was by 1 to 12 or 13 plus, or if they lost, whether it was a 1 to 12 or 13 plus margin. So firstly, this is the market that we're looking at. In sports bets, class is a big win, little win. Seagulls 1 to 12 pays 310, 13 plus 440. And then same for the Rabbitohs. First thing you want to do is, if you've decided which market or which selection you're going to go with, is shop around the betting companies. Because if we bring up Bet365 for a start and go main for the markets, here we've got the 1 to 12. It's 325 compared to 310. And that 440 with Sportsbet for the 13 plus is 475 here. And same with the Rabbitohs, 285, 310. And then Sportsbet have $4 for the Rabbitohs, 13 plus instead of the 360. So that's straight away, for $100 bet, you're getting $30, $40, $50-ish back, depending which selection you're going with, straight away just by using Bet365 or Sportsbet instead of the other. So that's really easy to get started. But now when it comes to narrowing down our selections, because in this, about to show you something really, really cool that's going to, double your profits or close to it for each bet you're putting on. So if we look at every team during 2023, you'll notice there are a few teams that really stand out one way or the other. The Raiders, all 13 of their wins were by 1 to 12 points. The Bulldogs, 6 of their 7 wins were by 1 to 12. 11 of their 17 losses were by 13 plus, and so on and so forth as you go through. And obviously, some of them are pretty obvious, Penrith aren't going to lose that many games by 13 or more points. Same with the Broncos, they made it through to the grand final. And then your lesser teams like your Tigers, Bulldogs, etc., aren't going to win that many games by big margins. But here's where it gets cool. If we break this down one step further and take the 6-point margins instead of the 12-point or 13 plus margins, now we get to see some really cool information. And so just to compare this here's your 1 to 12 market. If you scroll down and go to the margin markets, winning margin 2, here's your 1 to 6, 7 to 12, etc. And you'll notice the payouts are significantly higher than the 1 to 12. So now we need to figure out how we can play this. And so there are a few teams and situations I want to draw your attention to here. This is still just looking at 2023. The Raiders, as we said, all 13 wins were by 1 to 12. 9 of those were by 1 to 6 points. Those Bulldogs games, the 6 that they won by 1 to 12, were all by 1 to 6. The Cronulla Sharks, they won 10 games by 13 or more. 8 of those were by 19 or more. Then the Manly Seagulls, the games they won by 1 to 12. Out of the 6, 5 of them were by 1 to 6 points. And then the games they won by 13 plus, 4 of the 5 were by 19 or more. So hope you can kind of start to see a trend emerging here. The Storm are another one that weren't necessarily the 1 to 6, but they are in that 7 to 12 bracket. And here's also where it gets interesting. These listed teams from New Zealand all the way down to Penrith, you can see the number of games here that were won by 13 plus. Only 1 of the 7 was won by 13 to 18. Then 1 of 8, 1 of 6, 1 of 7, 1 of 12. So pretty much any situation out of a pretty large quantity, 6, 7, 8 to 12 games here for all 5 of these sides, almost all of them were won by 19 plus. So if you're backing that 13 plus margin, taking $2.50, $3, maybe $3.50 for them 13 plus, could have been getting $4.50, $5 for the 19 plus margin. Obviously, there's going to be situations like that one time, where the Warriors did win by 13 to 18, where you're going to lose that bet. But in situations where it's consistently happening, you're going to profit more in the long term. So those are some of the standout ones. Dragons only won 3 games by 1 to 12, but all 3 were by 1 to 6, same as the West Tigers. And then the same principle applies when you're looking at the margins they lose by. The Canberra Raiders, when they lose by 13 plus, majority of the time, it's 19 or more. Bulldogs, especially 9 of the 11. Sharks, all five of them when they lost by 13 plus. Then the Dolphins, 6 of the 7. Same with the Dragons and the Tigers, 7 of 10. And same on this flip side here when you're comparing the 1 to 6 and 7 to 12. The Tigers, 7 of 10. And Panthers, all 5 games they lost by 1 to 12 were by the 1 to 6 margin. And I'm sure you can go through and look at the rest of the stats. So now that's just looking at the 2023 data. How does this compare when we, backdate it over the past few years? As you can see here is every team's win record since 2019, so over the past 5 seasons. This is looking at close to 1,000 games. 489 of them have been decided by 1 to 12. 493 decided by 13 plus with 3 draws in there, which can't even bet on anymore in the NRL now. They have the extra time, and it rarely happens anyway, so you don't even want to go down that track. But you'll notice it's close to 50% basically for each one's like 50, just under, and then just over 50% for both of those. So here you can already start to see a few trends emerging with certain teams winning a lot of games by one margin than the other. And this is why it's not just a blanket rule for every team. You want to dive into the specifics for each side. So then when we look at it, the last 5 years for the 6-point margins instead of the 12-point. First thing you want to look at down here is when we're looking at the 1 to 12 wins, 29% of games are decided by 1 to 6 and 21% are decided by 7 to 12. So straight away, there's a lean towards the 1 to 6 margin. Few of the teams that stand out, the Bulldogs, Gold Coast Titans, the Seagulls is fairly high in comparison. Then the Eels, Panthers, and Dragons all higher. So the West Tigers. And then in the 13 plus, this is the one that really, really stands out. So main objective I want to make here is when you're looking at a 13 plus margin, definitely consider the 19 plus and try to get the best possible price for the 19 plus because it hits at almost 3 times the rate as the 13 to 18 win number does. So 16% of the time it lands between 13 and 18 points, but 34% of the time it lands at 19 or more. And that was prevalent through 2023 and also over the past 5 years. You notice 12% of the time landed between 13 and 18, 34% of the time landed at 19 plus. So some of the teams that stand out in this category, the Broncos, Sharks, Manly Seagulls, especially 25 of the 31 games. The Storm, 43 of 57 games. Knights is even more than double at the rate. Eels is high, Panthers especially high. The Rabbitohs is fairly high. And see, as you'll notice, there's only a few or a handful of the teams that are even close to even in this category. So a lot of the time, you definitely want to be going with the 19 plus, especially when you can find situations where it matches up. So teams that have a high win rate of 19 plus. So, let's just say the Manly Eagles at 25 of their 31 games. And then we go to a team that lose by 19 plus a lot when they do lose by 19 plus. For example, like the Bulldogs or a team that's a little bit higher up there, the Warriors, Knights, Eels, etc., all kind of fringe top 8 sides. So definitely when you're betting on margin markets, look at the 1 to 6. You can also bet in the 1 to 10 markets, and you can break down this data lots of different ways, but I found it really easily going through and looking at it, in halving the 1 to 12 and then halving the 13 plus markets. So then you can kind of see where it falls. Hopefully this video gave you some insights in the factors you can consider when betting on the NRL. If you want more insights like this and more betting previews, make sure you subscribe so then you're notified when the new videos coming out. I'll be previewing plenty of games every single week right throughout the entire season.